Have you ever caught yourself doing math in your relationship? Not financial math, emotional math. I texted first, so they should text first next time. I listened for an hour, so they owe me attention. I stayed loyal, so I deserve perfection. That kind of love isn't love. It's a deal. And deals create expectations, and expectations quietly turn affection into a negotiation. Today we're talking about a simple idea that can change everything. Love is not a marketplace deal. If you're the type who keeps score, don't feel attacked. Most of us were trained to love like business. But the cost is huge. You might win the argument and still lose the warmth. Let's unpack this, without cliches, and end with practical ways to stop turning love into a transaction. When I say transactional love, I don't mean you should be naive. I'm not saying accept disrespect or give endlessly with no limits. That's not love, that's self-abandonment. I mean something more subtle. When love becomes a trade, the relationship becomes a marketplace and your mind becomes a cashier. You start asking, even if silently, what will I get? What do I get for being good? What do I get for staying? What do I get for forgiving? And the tragedy is, the more you ask what will I get, the less love you feel. Because love doesn't grow in a place where everything must be paid back. So today we'll cover how transactional love starts and why it feels normal. The hidden poison, expectation and scorekeeping. Needs versus love, how people confuse them. Boundaries versus deals, huge difference. How to become loving without becoming a doormat. And a simple daily practice to rebuild warmth. Chapter 1, The Relationship Marketplace. A marketplace is not evil. It's useful. You go in, you pay, you receive. Fair exchange. The mistake is bringing that logic into love. Because the moment you turn love into a trade, you create a silent contract. I will give you affection if you behave. I will be patient if you change. I will be loyal if you never disappoint me. I will be kind if you make me feel secure. And now your love has terms and conditions. Here's the thing, a contract can produce cooperation, but it cannot produce devotion. A contract can manage behavior, but it cannot create aliveness. That's why some couples look like they love each other when they need each other, but the moment the need is over, the vibe changes. The reason is not always cruelty. Sometimes it's just this, they were bonded by a need, not by love. If two people are both lonely, they can feel in love fast. If two people need validation, they can become addicted to each other. If two people need stability, they can confuse peace with passion. And when the need is satisfied or when the need disappears, the connection drops. Because the fuel was need, not love. So the first question is uncomfortable but powerful: is your relationship powered by love or powered by a deal? Chapter 2, Expectation is the beginning of scorekeeping. Transactional love always produces expectation. Expectation sounds innocent. It sounds like, I just want fairness. But fairness in love often becomes, do you love me as much as I love you? Do you care the same amount? Are you giving the same energy? And the moment love becomes a measurement, it becomes anxiety. Because you can't truly measure love. You can measure actions, time, gifts, effort, responsibility. But love itself? The inner warmth? The way your heart opens? That's not a kilogram. The problem is, expectation isn't only about fairness. Expectation secretly wants profit. It wants a return. It wants guaranteed outcomes. It wants security. And love doesn't operate like that. Love is not a strategy to get something. It's a state you enter. If you love only to receive love back, you're not loving, you're negotiating. And negotiation creates fear. What if I give more and get less? What if I invest and it fails? What if I'm the foolish one? So you tighten up. You protect yourself. You stop being open. And open-heartedness is literally the soil where love grows. Here's a line worth remembering: when you love to be loved back, you're not in love, you're in business. Now, business is fine, but don't call it love. Chapter 3: The Keeping Score Spiral. Let's make it real. Scorekeeping shows up like this: I planned the last date, so you should plan the next one. I apologized last time, now it's your turn. I always compromise, you never do. I supported your dream, so you owe me support now. And sometimes those statements are true. But here's the trap: if you communicate them as accusations, you create a courtroom. Two people become lawyers. No one becomes lovers. Scorekeeping also creates this exhausting mental noise: what did I say? What did they mean? Was that disrespect? Was that selfish? Did they do more? Did I do more? When your mind runs this loop, you can't relax. And if you can't relax, love feels unsafe. When love feels unsafe, you go back to contracts. That's the cycle: fear leads to contract, leads to expectation, leads to scorekeeping, leads to more fear. So how do we break it? Not by pretending fairness doesn't matter, but by moving fairness into the right place. Fairness belongs in boundaries and agreements, not inside the heart. Your heart is not a calculator. Your relationship can have agreements, healthy ones, but your love should not be an accounting system. Chapter 4: Needs are real, but needs are not love. This is where people get confused. Humans have needs: physical needs, emotional needs, social needs, security needs. There's nothing wrong with needs. But if you confuse needing you with loving you, trouble starts. Because when I need you, I'm focused on what you provide. When I love you, I'm focused on what I can express. Needing says, don't leave, or I collapse. Love says, I want you here, and I want you to be free. Needing says, prove you care. Love says, I'm grateful you exist. Needing says, you complete me. Love says, I'm whole, and I choose you. Now, let's be honest, most relationships contain both love and need. That's normal. But if need becomes the foundation, love becomes conditional. And conditional love feels like, I'll be warm when you behave. I'll be kind when you meet my standards. I'll open my heart when you finally become who I want. That someday day rarely comes. Because love can't be delivered from outside like a package. It grows from inside like a plant. If your inner life is dry, you'll keep demanding water from your partner. And no human can be your ocean forever. Chapter 5: The Key Distinction: Boundaries versus Deals. This part is important, so listen closely. A deal is, I will love you if you do X. A boundary is, if X happens, I will protect myself. A deal tries to control the other person. A boundary protects your dignity. So what does that look like? Deal: if you don't text me back fast, I'm done. Boundary: if communication is inconsistent, I will stop investing so deeply. Deal: if you talk to your ex, you don't love me. Boundary: I'm not comfortable with that dynamic. If it continues, I'll step back. Deal: if you don't change, I'll punish you with coldness. Boundary: if this pattern continues, I will leave peacefully. See the difference? Boundaries are clean. Deals are emotional blackmail with polite packaging. So yes, love is not a transaction. But relationships still require standards. Mature love is not tolerate anything. Mature love is, I can be loving, and I can still walk away from what breaks me. Chapter 6: Becoming loving without becoming naive. Now the big idea: love is not something you do. It's something you become. That sounds poetic, but let's make it practical. If you do love as an action, you'll stop when you're tired. You'll stop when you're not appreciated. You'll stop when your needs aren't met. But if you become loving as a way of being, your kindness isn't dependent on the other person's performance. It's dependent on your inner state. This is where many people resist. Because they think, if I become loving, I'll get used. I'll get nothing back. And here's the hard truth: yes, sometimes you will get nothing back. If you're loving in order to get something back, you're still in transaction mode. If you're loving because you want to be alive, open, and human, then you're free. But again, freedom doesn't mean staying in harmful situations. Love as an inner state gives you clarity. And clarity helps you choose better instead of begging for better. Chapter 7, a 3-minute guided reset. Let's do a quick reset. You can do this while walking or sitting. Take one slow breath. Now ask yourself, where am I keeping score in my relationships, romantic or not? Don't judge it. Just notice. Second question, what am I secretly hoping to win by keeping score? Attention? Safety? Respect? Certainty? Third question, what would it look like to ask directly, without blame, for what I actually need? One more breath. Now this is the key, can I give love today as an expression of who I am, not as a strategy to control what someone does? That's it. That's the shift. Chapter 8, Practical Tools. Let's get very practical. If you want love without a marketplace mindset, you need language that doesn't sound like a contract. Here are transactional phrases versus loving plus boundary phrases. Tool 1, replace you owe me energy. Instead of, after all I did, you should. Say, I feel unappreciated, and I need more reciprocity. Can we talk about what that looks like? Tool 2, replace scorekeeping with a request. Instead of, I always do everything. Say, I'm overwhelmed. I need help with these 2 things this week. Tool 3, replace mind reading with clarity. Instead of, if you loved me, you'd know. Say, it matters to me when you do X. Can you do that more often? Tool 4, replace control with a boundary. Instead of, you're not allowed to. Say, I'm not comfortable with that. If it continues, I will step back. Tool 5, replace test behavior with honesty. Instead of, disappearing to see if they chase. Say, I felt disconnected this week. I want us to reconnect. These sentences sound simple, but they're a different philosophy. They say, I won't turn love into a deal, but I also won't betray myself. That's maturity. Chapter 9, 2 short stories. Let me give you 2 quick stories. Story 1, The Proof of Love Trap. A person says, if you really loved me, you'd post me. But what they're really saying is, I feel insecure. So the relationship becomes, I'll perform love publicly so you feel safe privately. That's not intimacy. That's branding. The healthier version is, I notice I feel insecure sometimes. I'd love reassurance. Can we talk about it? Now love becomes connection, not a public transaction. Story 2, The I'll be loving when you're perfect trap. Someone says, I'll be affectionate when you finally change. What happens next? The other person feels punished. Then they resist. Then you both harden. The reality is, love is not a reward you give for good behavior. And affection is not a weapon you use for change. If you need change, ask for change. If you need boundaries, set boundaries. But don't turn your heart into a bargaining chip. Here's the core message, you can be smart in life. You can be smart with money, business, strategy, choices. But if you bring that same profit and loss mindset into love, you may become efficient and emotionally bankrupt. Love is not something you do to earn something. It's something you become, and from that place, you choose your actions, your boundaries, your relationships. So here's your challenge for the next 24 hours. Catch yourself the moment you think, what will I get? And replace it with, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? If you want, comment or journal this, where in my life have I turned love into a deal? And what would love without bargaining look like while still respecting myself? Thanks for listening. If this episode hit you, share it with someone who keeps score, and maybe they'll finally rest.